What is the meaning of the rainbow angel in Revelation chapter 10? Some believe that this points to Jesus marching with an army. Some refer to Psalm 68, Habakkuk chapter 3, and Deuteronomy chapter 33 when they talk about Revelation chapter 10. In this video, I'm going to give you insights into Revelation chapter 10. If you've not subscribed yet to the channel, then click on the subscribe button, on the bell and on all, and you'll receive the notifications when we upload new videos. So let's get into our video. I'm not going to look at Psalm 68, Habakkuk chapter 3, or Deuteronomy chapter 33. I'm just going to go straight into Revelation chapter 10 and let's see what is the actual meaning. And then we would see it's not right to use Psalm 68, Habakkuk chapter 3, or Deuteronomy 33 to explain Revelation chapter 10. They are not connected. They talk about two different events. Now, the first thing about Revelation chapter 10 from verse 1 to 11 verse 14 is that this is a parenthesis between the 6th and the 7th trumpet. Just like the chapter 7 of Revelation is a parenthesis between Revelation's 6th seal and 7th seal when it talks about the 144,000. So this is what the Revelation chapter 10 is. It's a parenthesis between the 6th and the 7th trumpet. Now, when you study the 6th and the 7th trumpet, you would see it's talking about, especially the 7th trumpet, it's talking about the plagues that are going to fall. Also, when you're talking about the 7 last plagues, it's actually talking about more or less just before the second coming of Jesus. So if this parenthesis is in the right place, then this event of the rainbow angel would take place before the second coming of Jesus Christ. And we are going to see this is exactly what it means. And we're going to look at what did this prophecy, this rainbow angel, this book that he holds in his hands, what does it refer to? Let's go to Revelation chapter 10 and verse 1. I saw still another mighty angel coming down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was on his head. His face was like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire. Now, the word angel here in the Greek is angelos, which means messenger. It does not mean wings created being. It means messenger. There are examples in the Bible where a person is called an angel, like John the Baptist. Let's go to Matthew 11 verse 10. For this is he of whom it is written, behold, I send my messenger. That word messenger is angelos in Greek, same word. Before your face, who will prepare your way before you. That was John the Baptist. He was called an angel. Why? Because it's just a messenger. It does not mean created being with wings. A cherubim represents an angel with wings, and a seraphim with 6 wings represents an angel with wings, or a messenger with wings. Even Jesus himself is called an angel in the Bible. If we go to Exodus chapter 3 verses 2 and 4 and 6, it says, and the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush, in front of Moses. Now listen to who's calling. God called to him from the midst of the bush. So the angel of the Lord is God. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. So the angel, capital A, of the Lord comes into the bush and says to Moses, I am God. That's Jesus. How do we know that it is Jesus? Well, in verse 14, Jesus tells him, who must he say he is? And he says, and God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. So this angel of the Lord, messenger of the Lord, says, I am who I am. Then in John 8:58, Jesus said, I am who I am. And then they wanted to stone him because they knew that he proclaimed to be the God that spoke to Moses in the burning bush. So firstly, get the picture out of your mind that angel represents a being that is created with wings. It can represent a person, it can represent a being with wings, depends on the context, or it can represent Jesus himself as a messenger, the greatest messenger this world has ever seen. Fascinating about this angel, there's a rainbow. While Revelation 4 verse 3 says, and he who sat there was like a jasper and sardius stone in appearance, and there was a rainbow around the throne in appearance like an emerald. So we got a rainbow around the throne of God. This angel also had the face like the sun. Revelation 1:16 says, he had in his right hand, this is Jesus, 7 stars. Out of his mouth went a sharp two-edged sword, and his countenance was like the sun shining in its strength. This angel had feet like fire or pillars. In Revelation chapter 1:15, it explains Jesus, and it says his feet were like fine brass, as if refined in a furnace, and his voice has the sound of many waters. This angel speaks, and then there's thunder. John 12:28 and 29, God speaks and it says, Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. Therefore the people who stood by and heard it said that it had thundered. Others said, an angel has spoken to him. So when God speaks, there is thunder. And then it also says this angel has a voice like a lion in verse 3 of Revelation chapter 10. Jeremiah 25 verse 30 says, the Lord will roar from on high and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He will roar mightily against his fold. What am I trying to say with the description of this angel? I believe this angel is Jesus Christ. He's got the rainbow, he speaks with thunder, he shines like the sun, he's got the pillars of brass. It's the depiction of Jesus in Revelation chapter 1 and other passages in the Bible combined explain this is Jesus himself as a messenger coming to John and holding up this book. Now the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation are one. The one is a prophecy, Daniel, and the other one is a revelation. It also contains prophecies, but it builds upon the prophecies that Daniel already gave. Daniel chapter 7 and Revelation chapter 13, you will find there's a little horn, there are 4 beasts coming out of the earth, a lion, a bear, a leopard, and a 4th beast with 10 horns. In Revelation chapter 13, you have got a beast with 10 horns, and you find a lion, a bear, and a leopard. So you clearly see that these chapters are connected. In Daniel chapter 3, there's an image made, and everyone needs to bow down and worship. Revelation 13 and 14 warns against the image to the beast. In Daniel chapter 12 and Revelation 10 are connected. And this is important for us to understand. To have a clear understanding of Revelation chapter 10, we must understand Daniel chapter 12 and especially Daniel chapter 7 and 8. It gives us an understanding, a picture of what God is trying to say in Revelation chapter 10. We're just going to do an overview of what this is talking about. In Revelation chapter 10, you have an angel, an open book in his hand, thunders, the angel swears by him who created all things, and then he says, there are time no longer. In Daniel chapter 12, you've got Michael the archangel. Michael means the one who is like God. Archangel means the greatest messenger. One who is like God, the greatest messenger, that's Jesus. So once again, we have Jesus. Verse 4 talks about a sealed book. Revelation 10, an open book. Daniel 12, a sealed book. Daniel 12 also talks about until the time of the end. It's not talking about the end of time when Jesus comes. The time of the end. Revelation chapter 10, time no longer. Then in Daniel chapter 12 verse 7, it talks about the angel who swore by him in heaven. That's the same thing the angel did in Revelation chapter 10. So very clearly these two chapters are connected. The angel in Daniel chapter 12 says time, times, and half a time. That is 3.5 years in the Hebrew. 1,260-year prophecy of Revelation chapter 13 and chapter 12. These are the time periods that it points to. You can also find this in Daniel chapter 7. It's mentioned 7 times. One time it's mentioned as time, times, and dividing of time. Another time it's mentioned as 3.5 years, or 42 months, or 1,260 days. It's all the same time period when the Antichrist would rule during the Dark Ages. Click on the card in the upper right corner where I explain the Antichrist. So the Antichrist is the Roman Catholic Church according to the Reformers. And when I study the Bible, I come to the same conclusion. And they persecuted Christians during the Dark Ages. And they started this persecution in 538 AD when Vigilius ascended the papal chair under the military protection of Belisarius. They received the power of the government and of the military. Then they received a deadly wound in 1798, exactly 1,260 years later, when Berthier, the general of Napoleon, went and took the Pope captive. The papacy lost its power and received its deadly wound. So this time period is mentioned in Revelation chapter 12, Revelation chapter 13, and Daniel chapter 12 and Daniel chapter 7. These time periods are mentioned. Now in Daniel chapter 12 verse 8 it says, "Although I heard, I did not understand. Then I said, my Lord, what shall be the end of these things?" The Antichrist and everything that he does. Verse 9, "And he said, Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end." There's a time prophecy in the book of Daniel chapter 8, which was the longest and the final time prophecy of the Bible. And this time prophecy we can find in Daniel chapter 8 verse 13 or 14. And you will find the same wording. "Then I heard a Holy One speaking, and another Holy One said to the certain one who was speaking." This is the same as we hear in Daniel 12 verse 8. Then we read on Daniel 8, "How long will the vision be?" And that's what Daniel also asked. How long will this be? "Concerning the daily sacrifices and the transgression of desolation, the giving of both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot. And he said to me, For 2,300 days, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed." Now I explained this prophecy also in a video. Click on the card in the upper right corner to understand that prophecy, when it started and when it ended. And that prophecy ended, time prophecy, in 1844. So the Antichrist received his deadly wound 1798, and in 1844, the longest time prophecy in the Bible came to an end, and it's the last one. There isn't another one after this. And in Daniel chapter 12, he asked the angel, "How long will these things be?" And then he said, "Time times dividing of time." But this book is sealed until the time of the end. The angel also asked another angel this question in Daniel chapter 8. And then he said, 2,300 days. A day in prophecy is a year. So 2,300 years, then this prophecy will come to an end. And that was in the year 1844. This is fascinating. So papacy rules until 1798. The longest time prophecy comes to an end in 1844. 46 years later. What can we expect to happen on this day in 1844? Well, Daniel tells us in Daniel chapter 7. 3 times in Daniel chapter 7, you've got the little horn, the Antichrist. And then Daniel says a judgment will take place just after the times and a half a time, meaning after the year 1798. Let me give you the 3 instances that this took place. Daniel 7, 8 and 9. "I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one. And there in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated." So it's a little horn, then the Ancient of Days are seated. What's taking place? Let's go to verse 21 and 22. "I was watching, and the same horn," that's the little one, "was making war against the saints and prevailing against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and a judgment was made in favor of the saints of the Most High." So now the Bible expounds, it gives us more detail. The Ancient of Days will be seated, and he will judge after the rule of the little horn. Now we go to verses 25 and 26, and now it becomes clear. "He," that's a little horn, the Antichrist, "shall speak pompous words against the Most High, and shall persecute the saints of the Most High." This happened during the Dark Ages for 1,260 years. "Then the saints shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time." There's the time period, which ended in 1798. "But the court shall be seated. They shall take away the Antichrist's dominion to consume and destroy it forever." So now it's very clear. It's little horn, persecution until the end of the times and dividing of time, which ended in 1798. And after that, the court shall be seated. A judgment will take place. And this is what happened in the year 1844, when the Bible talks about the sanctuary being cleansed. It's what is called the Investigative Judgment. When Jesus moved from the holy place to the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary and started the judgment in heaven. Now, what happened upon the earth in 1844? Well, it's what they call in history, the Great Awakening took place just before it, and then the Great Disappointment took place in 1844. People understood the sanctuary to be cleansed as the earth. But it wasn't the earth, it's the heavenly sanctuary. Jesus wasn't coming with fire yet. He was moving into the most holy place of the sanctuary. And we also read this in Daniel chapter 7, when it talks about the Son of Man coming with the clouds to the Ancient of Days, where the court is seated in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary. So this is what took place in 1844, and it was a bitter experience for the people because they believed Jesus was coming. It was so sweet, wonderful. Jesus is coming, but then he didn't come. So Daniel chapter 8 verse 14 talks about the sanctuary being cleansed. Daniel chapter 12 talks about the book being sealed until the time of the end, when Daniel asked the same question as the angel did in Daniel chapter 8. And he said, seal up the book until the time of the end, meaning when time prophecy comes to an end, the final one, which is the 2,300-year prophecy, and it came to an end in 1844, meaning there are no time prophecies after the year of 1844. In Revelation chapter 10, is explaining this experience. Let's go to verse 9. So I went to the angel, and he said to me, give me the little book. And he said to me, take and eat it, and it will make your stomach bitter, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth. Here Jesus gives this little book to Daniel, and he says, eat. It will be sweet, but then bitter. The only book that was sealed was the book of Daniel. Now the angel, Jesus, says to John, the book is now open, because it's now an open book in his hand. The prophecies of Daniel are now understood. The people studied it during the year of 1833 and onwards, hence the Great Awakening and people expecting Jesus to come. Now the prophecies of Daniel have come to light, and the people were excited that Jesus would come, sweet in the mouth. Then he didn't come, bitter in the stomach. It is the little book of Daniel that John ate in the book of Revelation chapter 10. This chapter has got nothing to do with Jesus leading an army and connected with Habakkuk chapter 3 and Psalm 68 and Deuteronomy chapter 33. This has got everything to do with what they call in history the great disappointment that took place in 1844, where the book of Daniel was understood and read, and people thought Jesus would come sweet in the mouth, and he didn't come, bitter in the stomach. That's the understanding of Revelation chapter 10. It perfectly lines up with Daniel 12, Daniel 8, and Daniel 7. As Daniel is the prophecy, Revelation reveals that prophecy. If you've liked this video, then subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, leave a comment below. We are self-supporting, so if you want to support this ministry, you can do so by using the details below. Become a Patreon. You can use a once-off payment via PayPal, or use the banking details right here in South Africa, all below in the description. We highly appreciate it. May God bless you until I see you again in the next video.